Welcome back to the Rent Roll Queen podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by Reebok, the Real Estate Business Owners Conference. Are you sick of not knowing where your money is going? Craig Mitchell from BDO speaks to us today about money management and how it can drive your personal and business success. Welcome to the show, Craig.
Well, thank you for having me.
Oh, thanks for coming on. So can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Craig Mitchell, I'm a partner at BDO. We're an accountancy tax advisory firm. I've been a tax advisor and business advisor for pushing on 20 years now.
Yeah, wow.
And seen everything from basic tax work for mums and dads and investors and businesses and family businesses and growth industries, and just really enjoy now being a partner at BDO in our biz services team, advising business owners about, the tax compliance piece about keeping out of jail, meeting your obligations, as I say, but also the really exciting part about business growth and business sustainable growth, and helping business owners with that piece about managing their finances, managing the growth of a business, which quite often we see is one of the pain points that can cause a lot of trouble as we expand and grow and take on more people and take on more obligations in our business, and there's that tipping point in a business where we find someone who owns and manages and runs a business, it's all fun and games, and it's okay to turn up to your accountant every year with a shoebox of receipts until you get to a certain point. Oh, yeah.
I used to turn up with a spreadsheet, and then I was like, all right, it's time to roll over to zero. So,
Yeah. And it's changing that conversation between being, your accountant is someone who just saves you the most amount of tax, to being the accountant that helps you make the most amount of money.
Well, that's the thing, right? And I've said this quite a bit throughout the podcast show. It's about having a team behind you, and I call it my growth team.
Yep.
And that includes an accountant, because you need them to help you to move forward. And it's really important, and this is what I have done for myself, is I gave my accountant my 5-year plan. Here's my 5-year plan of what I want my business to look like. This is every bit of every aspect of it. And it's your job to help me drive it forward.
Yeah.
So let's talk about money management, because the real estate industry, they make a lot of money. The majority do. They make quite a significant amount of money. But what I see is it's a constant conversation of, I don't have enough.
Yeah. Where does it go?
Where does it go?
And that's the common question is, Craig, you told me you made all this profit, and I've got to pay all this tax. And that's, putting my tax advisor hat on. How much tax have you got to pay? I've got to pay all this tax on this profit, but where's my cash?
Yeah.
I don't see it. I don't see it in my bank account. I don't see it in the way I'm feeling about the cash flow in my business, my security about being able to, pay myself what I'm worth, or the comfort of meeting my, obligations that I may know or may not even know I've got coming up around the corner. And that anxiety about making profit in a business, but not controlling how we're managing the cash, controlling how we're deploying that profit to achieve that 5-year goal. And Tarsi saying you've got a 5-year goal for your business.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the start of every conversation. It's you're in business. Why are you in business? Where do you want it to go? What are your goals?
A lot of people can't answer that question, though.
No. And nobody thinks about it. I think the biggest challenge is being particularly an owner-manager of a business, and most people in real estate, the lead a business and own their own business, are also active in the business.
They are.
Being a selling principal and focusing on getting out there, pounding the pavement, getting listings, selling property. I mean, you love doing it. That's why you do it.
Yeah.
You're good at it, which is why you've built into a business, but you don't stop to run the business.
That's right.
And take the time, as we say, to work on the business instead of working in the business. And there's a huge difference. And particularly if you want to grow the business, or depending on what your goals are, where you want to take that business, if you don't take that time to stop, focus on that and really plan, whether it be a 5-year plan or just a 3-month plan of how are we managing this, or review and track your goals against where you've been. If you're only doing that once every 12 months, in arrears to meet a tax deadline, you're really not going to be driving the business, thinking about where you want to take it and what it's actually achieving for you as a business owner. Because why be a business owner and run a business rather than alleviating so much stress and just working for somebody else and being an amazing agent on commission and making a good, decent living working for someone else? Why taking the responsibility of hiring 15 people to run an organisation and deal with things like the tax office and payroll tax and superannuation and debt funding and paying the mortgage, not for your home but also for your business, depending on what you're doing. And
I guess a lot of people just think, a lot of business owners have a thing called control. It's a control thing, you know, and I have to micromanage and do everything. But instead of just like I said before, find your team, find your growth team and speak to your accountant, you know, and have that conversation and actually then be able to breathe, to sit back and go, this is actually what I want. How am I going to get there? And like you said, if you've got 15 employees, you should be a leader, not probably one of the ones selling. You should be able to get as much revenue from it. And we've got peaks and troughs in business, right?
Yeah. There's cycles in everything we do.
Everything. So it's like, okay, well, how do you better manage your money? Like how?
Oh, well, where do you start? I mean, for a lot of people, it's just as simple as starting somewhere to understand the basic principles of financial literacy. A lot of the programs I run at BDO are focused around just understanding what do the numbers mean? What's the terminology that you're using? How do you use them so that you can talk to your accountant? Because we speak in a different language.
You do.
We tell stories through numbers.
Yes.
We also use jargon. And, you know, whatever that is, if you don't understand what your accountant's saying or your financial advisor or any part of your growth team, if you're not using the same language, if you can't understand that, use it in conversation and communicate that in a way that is useful for those advisors to then help you with your growth journey, you're going to be at a disadvantage. So the first piece is, I guess, educate yourself to know the things about money and how your business operates in terms of, you know, profit and loss, income, expenses. And anyone that's, you know, seen one of my presentations, I talk about the balance sheet and how excited
I was about to say the balance sheet. I'm like,
how excited you get about that balance sheet. Well, at least I do. Most business owners have never looked at a balance sheet, let alone understand what's in it and why it's there and why it's so important. So starting with those fundamentals so that you can actually have a conversation with those people that are going to help you to achieve your goals.
Yeah.
And so start with fundamentals, understand your financial literacy, and don't be embarrassed about it. Most business owners are really good at what they do in the business.
Yep.
No one goes into business saying they want to be a CFO. It's up to you as a business owner to set strategy and drive the team and build what you do into, you know, something that's amazing. You just need to communicate with a good team to help you with those other
questions.
things. Yeah.
Like my whole thing is ask questions. There is so much of like, oh my God, I can't ask that question because I'm going to look dumb.
Yeah.
Look dumb.
Yeah.
Like as far as I'm concerned, put the ego aside so you actually have a really clear understanding of what's going on in your business, what's going in your money, you know, what the difference is between cash flow and net profit,
Yep.
like, you know, what tax is actually part, like what calculated on. So all those things will make such a big difference, but it's actually like communicating with your accountant on a regular basis and those people who can actually help you.
Yeah, I mean, it just comes. I tell people all the time, it's just conversations. Is it a conversation with your team? Is it a conversation with your accountant, your lawyer, your banker? You know, if you can't turn up and say, you know, talk about buying a rent roll, and you talk to your finance provider, and if you can't articulate with them why you're doing this, how it's going to benefit your business, how you're going to repay their loan with interest over a certain period of time, they're going to be less confident in dealing with you. The businesses, and when we deal with finance brokers and we deal with them a lot, the businesses that they love to deal with are the ones that can articulate how they're going to manage their money, because ultimately every bank or lender wants their money back.
Of course they do. That's why, you know, that's all part of how it goes. But it's also like with you as an accountant, like okay, I'm going to go buy a rent roll. I'm going to go speak to a financier and find out what I could possibly borrow.
Yep.
So I've got all my profit and loss statements. Everything's kind of there. They go, okay, you can kind of borrow this amount of money. And then go back to your accountant and have the conversation. Is this actually doable within my cash flow? Like, can I actually make this happen?
Yeah, and growth kills most businesses.
Yeah, right.
You talk about managing money, managing your finances. It's understanding those obligations, the timing of cash flow, the amounts who it needs to be paid to, understanding that the money that's in your bank account today may not be yours tomorrow, and you can't go out and spend it all because you need to plan for those expenditures. Understanding that where that's going and talking to your accountant, your lender about all of those things. The more confident you are, or at least to have some sort of plan, even if it's put together by your accountant, at least you're doing something to demonstrate that you're running a good business. And the next step of that, I've done plenty of cash flow forecasts for business owners where they just ring me up and I need the cash flow forecast for the bank. Can you do it? And just send it to them. It's like, yeah, great. We can probably do that. But there's going to be more value to what we provide, but also more value to the business owner if they're involved in the process and they understand that. And they got their finger on the pulse of where the business is going, because I'm not there every day as an advisor to say, hey, don't do this, don't do that. Yes, you should do this. It's the more you can upskill yourself and understand your own money management, and so you can drive your business for your goals, and then check in with your growth team, have them guide you, run those ideas past them on a macro level rather than that day-to-day piece. So
because I like to spend money, and that's no lie. And I always go I like to spend money. So you guys just tell me what I want to spend it. So you tell me where I can spend it, and that's just pretty much it. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to tell you exactly what to spend your money on, Tarsi, but
I'm not asking that. I'm always like, hey, can I do this? And it's like, I'm like, well, I'm going to spend it. So, tell me, can I?
Yeah, I'm just coming back to strategy. And strategy is not just about business. I want to open a shop here or expand this or buy this, or it's about financial strategy as well. It's like, like your 5-year plan.
Yeah. Well, see, I'm not spending it on stupid stuff. I'm spending it to drive my 5-year plan. I'm focused on that.
Yeah, and if it's not part of your plan already, how does your plan change? And
it.
What does that forecast look like? And, if we're going to open a new office in a new region and put on 5 new staff and leverage off this, how does that look? How do we manage that? And is it going to be profitable? If it's not going to be profitable in the short term, it's not hard. It's not hard to lose money opening the doors and paying a lot of wages and a lot of rent before you actually start bringing in revenue. What's our runway? What's our planning for that? How do we grow this business successfully and sustainably?
Yes.
And like I said before, growth kills a lot of business because growth requires working capital. Growth requires planning. Growth requires you to have your finger in the pulse to say, what does good look like?
Mm-hmm.
How do we monitor this regularly enough and manage particularly that financial piece, to say, this is going well, pat yourself on the back, or this is not working out the way we thought it is. And if we don't achieve X by a certain date, what do we do?
Yeah, go and drive that business so you can get some more money through the door.
Or shut it down.
Yeah, it's not working, guys.
And I mean, that's an awkward conversation to have with a client, but sometimes the most powerful one. To say, look, this is something different. This is growth. You might be doing something new or expanding or doing something that you think is achieving your goal. But if you don't plan, put some strategy around it and monitor that and understand what the financial performance needs to be, what the cash flow needs to be, how we're going to fund and support that, what the targets are, how do we know it's not working out?
Yeah, and the truth is there's such a big burnout in our industry, and a lot of it is from stress over financial management, not only just the process and procedures. It's stress over how am I going to make sure that I can keep my doors open.
Yeah. And I mean, the number of consultancy appointments I've had in recent months where it's a conversation about, I've got cash in the bank, but I'm not confident about where I am on my compliance calendar or where I've met all my obligations, or whether that's my money that I can spend, and the anxiety about having not enough information to make decisions.
Yeah.
So, and that's where you talk to your advisors, but it's also where you need to upskill yourself with financial literacy, with part of systems and processes, and understanding working on the business instead of in the business.
Yeah.
And taking a piece of your time to really understand that financial piece, because as a business owner, that's your responsibility. As a director of the company, you've got even more responsibility. And I know we're not talking about that today, but understanding what you need to do to protect yourself as a director of a business, and a lot of that comes down to money management.
There is so much to it.
Yeah,
so much to it. But you have this really awesome thing called Money Monday.
Yeah, Money Monday.
Can you talk us through that?
I guess it goes back to that piece where you don't want to be the business owner that just turns up once a year and looks at the numbers once a year and says, how much tax have I got to pay? We really encourage business owners to look at your financials at least once a week.
Yeah, yep.
Right. And that's not necessarily reporting and paying, your BASs and whatever. No, it's more about just sitting down and making sure that your finger on the pulse, you got your records up to date, and setting aside, even if it's just half an hour or 20 minutes every Monday to make sure your cash flow forecasts are updated. Your expenses and your income is all reconciled, and anything that's unusual has been dealt with there and then. There's no point in turning up 12 months later and your accountant saying to you, hey, what was this thing that you did September last year?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, nobody knows. Nobody knows. And there's no value in that either, right? But to get to Monday and sit down and just give yourself the space to run your business and say, I need 20 minutes every Monday just to look at what happened last week, update my projections for the next week, and start thinking about how you can build a system of cash flow forecasting and financial forecasting and budgeting and tracking just to make sure that you're on track every week. And if you do it every week,
it's so much easier than doing it once a year.
Yeah, it's like house cleaning, right? Geez, if I clean the house every Monday, my
the
place
house
is
spotless.
Spotless, and but I know next weekend I've got to mow the lawn, and it's been raining, and
don't talk to me about gardening. My hedges are so overgrown; it's not funny.
And it's like, oh man, if only I did that more regularly, it'd be a lot easier. And it's the same with managing your money, right? Get in there every week. The more you do it, the more you understand it, the more you got your finger on the pulse.
The better conversations.
Yeah. You might say, hey, Craig, this has changed, or this didn't happen.
Yeah.
Or this did happen, or I don't think we're going to meet those targets. And the sooner you can be on top of that, the better. The more you do it, the better you get at it. The more you're across the numbers, the more it becomes natural. The more you build your systems and processes to really drill down and be a part of that. And look, we're probably not running businesses where we can hire a finance team and have a financial controller or a CFO. And maybe some people are lucky enough to have that, but most of us aren't. So that's a hat you have to wear, and just get comfortable wearing that. And it just takes 20 minutes every Monday to sit down, look at your forecasts, look at your cash flow position, understand how much money you've got in the bank, where it's going. And it's not just the next week, but also build out a forecast for, 1 month, 3 months, 12 months.
Yeah,
right?
what bills are coming out where, actually understand what's going on inside that business.
That's right. And like, if you've got ongoing obligations, that my lease payment's coming up next week, or, that the new car finance, that's going to come out on this day of the month, and it's going to be next week. Do I have enough money in the bank to make sure that's happening? And if I do, that's great. But how do I make sure I've got enough? But building out that forecast and having a clear vision of where your cash flow is for at least the next 3 months. If you don't have an idea of where the money's coming from and going over the next 3 months, then you probably need to have 3 months worth of expenditure tucked behind the pillow to make sure that if something does go wrong, you're covered.
You're at least safe for a little while so that you can carry forward and move forward and then go and get the business. And I think too, people, like, when you actually feel safe, it allows you to also bring and generate more income because you don't have this extra thing of, oh my God, I've got to try and find money for this. You're not desperate. So it allows flow in your actual business.
Yeah, that confidence in what you're doing is going, okay, take away some of that stress you were talking about before, where it's like, I don't know where things are at. I don't feel confident to make a decision. I don't know if we're on the right track. I don't know if we can pay payroll next week.
Yeah.
And that anxiety either takes you further away from running the business and puts you back into generating income, generating sales, or can just shut you down and stress you out and burn you out, as you were saying. And that's not uncommon. Life and business is getting pretty busy.
Well, you see people too just have health issues or end up in hospital because they've burnt out completely. So there are ways, and I mean, I'm not saying that just money management causes that.
Oh, definitely not.
However, it adds to the stress is what I'm saying. And it's one thing that you can eliminate by doing Money Monday and actually taking half an hour of your time, which is literally you just having a cup of coffee in the morning or in the evening, or maybe not have coffee in the evening, but I mean, get through it and just you have a glass of wine, whatever you're going to do if you do or don't. But literally just put the time aside, have a look at it. It's done.
Yep.
And then, have a structure with your accountant and your financial growth team to basically say, okay, well, I need to touch base with you every 90 days.
Yeah.
That is, although you're thinking you're adding to your operating expenses to do that, you're actually investing in your professional development financially to grow your wealth.
And the more you understand it, the more powerful those conversations are going to be with your growth team. There's no point in turning up every 90 days to your growth team meeting with your advisors and saying, it just doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
To turn up and go, hey, I know this. I've been monitoring this. I'm on top of this. I'm managing this. And it doesn't feel good because of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And that not only makes that conversation more powerful, but it can also make that conversation a bit more timely. Hey, Craig, let's not wait until February to have that, quarterly meeting.
Yeah.
Let's meet Thursday.
Yeah.
I need to be in your office ASAP because something is either happening one way or the other and we need to chat.
Yeah.
And you're empowered as a business owner not to go, it doesn't feel right, to say, this is what doesn't feel right. This is why it doesn't feel right. And I've got the information to back it up. And the most frustrating thing as an advisor is we want to help.
Yes, you do.
And, to reflect on my career, what really turned me onto this whole thing was working with a business back in 2008, the GFC,
yes.
as many of us do remember and some of us may not.
I definitely remember it.
and wasn't a real estate client, but it was definitely a client running a really good business, turned to us and said, we got money problems. What do we do?
Yeah.
And we said, well, what information have you got? How up to date is it? And we talk about timely and accurate information. And the answer was, we don't have that information. And we said, well, we can't help you. We can't help you make decisions if we don't have the information.
Yep.
And you don't have the information, you're not aware of where to start. We don't have the information we can dig into to create solutions and work with you to solve a problem. And if you're not doing that as a business owner, your advisors are on a back foot to start with.
Yeah.
And it was really opened my eyes as a young professional service practitioner to say, this needs to be something that really helps and elevates businesses beyond just seeing your accountant as someone who saves me tax.
Yeah, you guys can do so much more.
It's so much more powerful to really talk about, where do I want to be in 5 years' time?
Yeah.
How do I get there? What are the conversations I need to have? And how do I manage my money? Whether it's cash flow, forecasting, budgeting, growth planning, the money management is so broad. Yeah.
Look, honestly, I can only speak from my own experience, but when I started to let go and actually outsource that and like those conversations with the accountant, and I got to start going, I'm doing the quarterlies and all the rest of it. There's so much joy in my soul when I go and see them, because now I've got a clear picture of what's actually going on. I feel like I can finally achieve everything I've ever wanted to.
Yeah.
So this Money Monday, like, it is a fabulous tool, you know, having those conversations. And like you said, getting some financial literacy, like, it is so important and such a big part of professional development. So if you're not taking the time out, you know, to do that professional development for yourself, you're just putting your own business on the back foot instead of going forward and moving forward all the time. And we want to see every business successful.
Yeah. And it's very much that changing. You talk about business development, and it changes that hat from being, I'm awesome at selling property, or I'm also awesome at property management, and saying I'm awesome at running a business.
Yeah.
And it's a skill set.
Yeah.
And where do you get those skills from? The best, most successful business owners are good at what they do in business, and also good at working on the business either themselves or with the right team.
Yeah.
And just backing yourself with the opportunity to work on the business, and starting with something as simple and as straightforward and easy as 20 minutes on a Monday.
Yeah.
To understand your numbers, update your forecasts, and maybe pick up the phone and say, hey, Craig, we need to have a chat.
Oh, we need to chat.
And, you know, that's the value that your accountant really should be providing.
Yes.
Beyond saving the tax or packaging up FBT or those type of things. It's probably, you know, having those conversations about, you know, how do we do those things and grow the business, and how does that look, and how do we manage that? Because you're now, if you're running a business, you're not just an agent, you're
a business owner.
Yeah. And that's a totally different hat, and it comes with its own responsibilities and stresses, and anything you can do to upskill yourself or partner with the people and have the right conversations at the right time.
Yeah. Well, you want to save more tax? It's all about doing all those things, because it's better to prevent than actually on the last day be like, oh my gosh, I've got to pay all of this.
Yeah, and flip that narrative and say, hey, I know I've got to pay tax.
I'm making money.
Because I'm running a really successful business that's making me lots of profit.
Yes.
And look, tax comes with profit. We can minimize all we want, but, you know, start with the goal of making the most profit.
Yes.
And then we'll worry about how much tax and how we can, you know, pay the least amount that we're legally entitled to do.
I like that one. That was really nice. Craig, thank you so much for coming on. What I'm going to do is put all of the details in the caption about yourself and BDO and how people can reach out to you. But I am highly suggesting get on board with money management and this Money Mondays, and they can reach out and find out more from you. Yeah. Thanks, Tarsi. It's been absolutely wonderful talking to you as always. Yeah. And, you know, really want to see people succeed in business and anything we can do to help with that. So, you know, start by helping yourself. Yes. Think about what are you doing next Monday. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you.